Good evening. As you listen to the sound of my voice, you might begin to notice your breath deepening, slowing. Allow me to be your gentle guide tonight, effortlessly leading you through the peaceful landscapes of a story that begins not in a palace or on a battlefield, but in the grime and shadow of the greatest city in the world, ancient Rome. There is nothing to understand here, nothing to solve, only the gentle rhythm of a story unfolding. And as you begin to settle, just one gentle thought. If this space feels like a comfort to you, you might consider a soft tap on the like or subscribe button. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. And if you feel so inclined, you could even leave a comment, letting me know the city and the time of night where you are listening. It's a quiet way of knowing we are all here, in this peaceful moment, together, but only if that thought feels as effortless as a quiet breath. And so, find that gentle darkness in your room, perhaps with a soft blanket pulled a little closer. As we begin our slow drift into tonight's tale, the sun is a hammer. It beats down on the cobblestones of the sub-URA, Rome's most crowded, chaotic, and wonderfully noisy neighborhood. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, cheap wine, sweating bodies, and something vaguely like fish that's been sitting out for just a little too long. You are leaning against a wall, trying to make yourself as small as possible, which is difficult in a crowd this dense. Every citizen, slave, and visitor in the city seems to be trying to get past you at this exact moment. Your stomach has been making a low, groaning complaint for the better part of the day. The last piece of work you had, unloading amphorae of olive oil down at the river docks, ended 2 days ago. The few coins you earned have already turned into a bit of bread and a slice of cheese, now just a distant memory. You are, to put it mildly, out of options. That's when a man approaches. H.E.S. not a legionary, not a senator, not even a respectable merchant. You can tell by his clothes, which are functional unstained, and by the way he carries himself, with a permanent sump, as if H.E.S. always bracing for a foul smell. He has the weary, unimpressed eyes of a man who has seen everything, and liked none of it. He looks you up and down, his gaze lingering on your arms, your back. H.E.S. not sizing you up for a fight. H.E.S. sizing you up for work. Hard work. You need a job, he asks. His voice is a low rasp. You nod. You don't trust your own voice right now. A desperate man can sound too eager, and an eager man can be cheated on his wages. He gestures with his thumb towards a small, unremarkable stone archway set into the base of a large apartment building, an insula. The pay is daily. It's more than you'll make at the docks, and it's steady. This sounds too good to be true. Steady work is a dream. Daily pay is a miracle. What's the work? You ask, finally. The man almost smiles. It's a sad, twisted little thing, maintaining the city's health, keeping Rome flowing. He says it with a kind of mock grandeur, a little inside joke H.E.S. having with himself. He then points down, towards the stone beneath your feet, down there. And suddenly, you understand, everyone in Rome knows what's down there. It's the city's great secret, the thing no one talks about but everyone relies on. The Cloaca Maxima, the Great Drain, a labyrinth of tunnels that carries away the waste of 1 million people. It's an engineering marvel. They say, a testament to Roman ingenuity. It's also the foulest, darkest, most forgotten place in the entire empire, and H.E.S. offering you a job in it. This is the job no one wants. The job reserved for the desperate, the lowest of the low. Historians, thousands of years from now, will argue about who exactly you are. Are you a slave, assigned to this task by a master? Are you a low-minus status-free man, a citizen who has fallen on such hard times that this is your only option? The records are murky, the truth lost to the filth. But for you, in this moment, those labels don't matter. What matters is the gnawing emptiness in your stomach and the man's promise of daily pay. You think of the world above, the glorious temples on the Capitoline Hill, the marble forums, the senators in their white togas debating the fate of the world. And then you think of the world below, the one that makes all that glory possible. The unseen, unthanked foundation of filth. You look at the man's tired eyes. You look at the dark, unassuming archway. You can already smell a faint, unpleasant odor wafting from it. A cool, damp breath from the earth. It is the smell of decay, of waste, of 1,000 hidden things. It is the smell of your future. I'll take it, you say, and the man nods, not with satisfaction, but with a kind of weary sympathy. He has seen this desperation before. He lives it. He turns and walks towards the archway. Come on, damn. He grunts over his shoulder. Your new life is waiting. And as you take your first step to follow him, leaving the hammering sun and the noisy street behind, you feel a sudden, surprising chill. The descent has already begun. The man, your new guide, doesn't wait for you. He slips through the archway and you hurry to follow. Afraid of losing him, of losing this grim opportunity, you pass from the blinding sunlight into a cool, stone-lined antechamber. It's small, maybe the size of a closet, and the air immediately changes. It becomes heavy, wet, and carries that same unpleasant odor, but now it's 100 times stronger. It's a physical presence, a thick blanket of a smell that coats the back of your throat. In the center of the floor is a dark, square hole with a series of iron rungs, thick with dampness, descending into absolute blackness. Your guide is already halfway down. His movements show unpracticed. He doesn't even look back. Well, his voice echoes up, sounding hollow and strange. It doesn't get any prettier if you stare at it. Taking a breath of the heavy air, you grip the top rung. It's cold and slimy to the touch. You swing your legs over and begin to climb down, your sandals scraping against the stone. The square of light from the entrance above shrinks with each rung you descend. The roar of the sub-URA, the shouting merchants, the rumbling carts, all of it begins to fade, replaced by a new sound. A slow, deep gurgling, the sound of the city's sluggish pulse. Your foot touches not solid ground, but something soft and yielding. It's a bank of silt and grime. You step off the ladder into ankle-minus deep, lukewarm liquid. This is not water. This is a slow, mournful river of everything Rome wants to forget. Your guide, standing a few feet away, strikes a flint and a small flame sputters to life, catching on the wick of a tiny tea oil lamp. The light doesn't illuminate the space so much as it pushes back a small circle of the oppressive darkness. You are in a tunnel. It's arched, made of massive, fitted stones that look impossibly ancient and strong. The ceiling is perhaps just a little taller than a man. The light from the small lamp flickers and dances, casting huge, monstrous shadows that seem to writhe on the curved walls. "Drew one," the veteran says, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Stay in the middle. The sides can be deep with silt, or a stone might be loose. The middle is where the flow is strongest. It keeps the path clearer." You take a tentative step forward, and then another. The sludge makes a soft, sucking sound with each movement. It's a truly revolting sensation. The lamplight reveals the contents of the slow-moving current. It's a murky soup of human waste, yes, but also 1,000 other things. You see waterlogged scraps of leather from a sandal maker's workshop, the bones of a chicken from someone's dinner, bits of straw, and countless shards of broken pottery. It's a liquid garbage heap, a museum of refuse. This part is old. The man grunts, tapping a huge, mossy block of stone with his knuckle. Etruscan kings built it. It was just an open ditch back then. Can you imagine? Right through the forum. He shakes his head. The thought of this foul river flowing under the open sky, past the temples and law courts, is truly staggering. We've altered it, tamed it, made it a proper sewer. This is a mainstream bit of Roman history. The story of how the Cloaca Maxima was covered and expanded over centuries. But down here, it feels less like history and more like a story told by a ghost. You walk for what feels like an eternity, but it's probably only a few hundred paces. The only sound is the sloshing of your own feet in the constant, no murmur of the flowing waste. Rule 2. The man says, his voice seeming to come from nowhere in the disorienting dark. Listen. The sound of the water tells you everything. If it gets quiet, there's a blockage ahead. If you hear a roar, it's a flash flood from a storm. You hear that? You find a ladder or a high ledge, and you climb. The water has no pity. You realize that the roaring city, which felt so oppressive just minutes ago, has become a dull, distant heartbeat you can only just feel through the soles of your feet. This is a different world, with its own rules, its own dangers, and its own brand of darkness. It's a darkness so complete that scholars, thousands of years from now, will debate the exact nature of your light source. Was it just one lamp for a whole crew? Did you sometimes work in utter blackness, navigating by touch and memory alone? The answer is, it depends on how much oil you have, and oil costs money. You quickly learn that light is the most valuable currency down here. Your guide stops. Here, he says, you've reached a junction where a smaller channel feeds into the main one. This is where we start today. He holds up the lamp, and you see the problem. A thick mass of debris, claws, animal fat, and who knows what else, has snagged on the corner, causing the water from the smaller tunnel to back up. It's your job to clear it. He looks at you, his face half-minus hidden in shadow, the little flame reflecting in his tired eyes. The enormity of it all settles on you. Not just this one blockage, but all of them, day after day. This suffocating, stinking, eternal darkness. This is your new world. He hasn't told you his name yet, and you haven't asked. Down here, names seem less important than survival. Your guide, let's call him Lucius, a common enough name, reaches back to a small, mossy alcove carved into the stone wall. It's a little storage nook, just above the waterline. From it, he pulls out 3 objects and holds them out to you in the flickering lamplight. Your gear, he says, with no ceremony at all. These are your new companions, the instruments of your strange and filthy orchestra. The first is your own oil lamp. It's a simple, saucer-shaped piece of terracotta, cheapened mass-produced, with a pinched spout for the wick. It's stained black with soot and grime. He hands you a small flask of oil, a viscous, no-grade olive oil that smells faintly rancid. This is your ration for the day, Lucius says, his voice stern. Use it wisely. When it's gone, you work in the dark. Don't drop it. A broken lamp is a bad day. A broken lamp in a deep section. That's your last day. You take it. Its rough surface a strange comfort in your hand. This tiny, sputtering flame is now your sun. Your moon. Your only connection to the world of sight. You realize with a jolt that your life depends entirely on this fragile piece of clay and the stinking oil within it. Next, he hands you a bucket. It's made of wood, bound with iron strips, and attached to a long, coarse rope. It's heavy, solid, and looks like it's seen 1,000 years of service. The wood is permanently stained a dark, muddy brown, and the rope is stiff with dried filth. For the big stuff, Lucius explains. Things you can't push along with the flow. We haul it up to a manhole and the cart boys take it away. You imagine hauling that heavy bucket, filled with waterlogged refuse, up a 20-foot shaft, hand over hand. Your back aches just thinking about it. Finally, he gives you the most important of all. It's a long iron hook, like a massive fishing gaff, mounted on a sturdy wooden pole that's about twice your height. The iron is pitted and rusted, but the point is still sharp. The UNCOS. He says, giving us a name, your new best friend. You'll use it for everything. Poking, pulling, prodding, testing the depth ahead of you. Fending off things. Things, you ask, your voice a little too quiet. Lucius just grunts, which is not the reassuring answer you were hoping for. He demonstrates, expertly jabbing the hook into the blockage you're meant to clear. With a grunt of effort, he twists and pulls. A large, sudden mass of what looks like felted woolen animal hair comes loose with a disgusting sucking sound. The back minus up water behind it surges forward. See, you don't use your hands. Ever. He looks at your hands, clean just an hour ago. And then back at the foul water. Rule 3. The water is poison. Get a cut. And the water gets in, you get a fever. The fever gets bad. We haul you out and leave you by the temple of Esculapius. The gods can sort you out from there. It's a blunt, terrifyingly casual statement of fact. This is a core truth of your existence. A historical reality often overlooked. While the Roman elite had access to sophisticated surgical tools and physicians trained in Greek medicine, your healthcare is a mixture of folk remedies and desperate prayers. The concept of germ theory is nearly 2,000 years in the future. For you, sickness is caused by bad air, miasma, or the displeasure of the gods. Then down here, the air is unquestionably bad. You take the heavy hook. The wood is worn smooth from years of use, polished by hands that have done this exact job, day after day, holding these 3 simple items: lamp, bucket, and hook. You feel a strange sense of purpose. It's a disgusting purpose, but it's a purpose nonetheless. The tools are simple, almost primitive. Historians will debate whether you had more specialized equipment for certain tasks, perhaps long minus-handled drakes or shovels. But the evidence is sparse. For the most part, it's believed your work relied on these basic, brutal instruments. It was a job of brute force, not finesse. Lucius watches you get your footing, holding the tools awkwardly. Don't just stand there like a statue of Hercules with a toilet brush. Get to it. He points the end of his own hook at the remaining debris. Work from the edges. Loosen it a piece at a time. If you try to pull the whole thing at once, your pole will snap or you'll fall in. And you don't want to fall in. You jab the hook into the mass. It's surprisingly resistant. A tangled, fibrous knot of the city's cast minus offs. You pull, straining your shoulders and back. A small chunk comes free and floats away on the current. It's not much, but it's a start. You jab the hook in again. Poke. Trod. The simple, repetitive motions will become the rhythm of your days. Your lamp, your bucket, then your hook, waging a slow, endless war against the refuse of an empire. The flame of your lamp throws your shadow, huge and distorted, against the ancient stones, making you look like a giant warrior battling some subterranean monster. But it's just you, and a pile of garbage. After a period of grueling work, a rhythm establishes itself. The scrape of your iron hook against the stone floor, the wet slap of dislodged debris hitting the water, the low groan of your own muscles. Lucius works beside you, his movements economical and precise, never wasting an ounce of energy. He seems less like a man and more like a part of the sewer itself, a creature perfectly adapted to this dark, wet world. The blockage is cleared. The water from the side channel now flows freely into the main artery, and the gurgling sound of the tunnel deepens, becomes healthier. Lucius grunts in satisfaction. A sound that you're beginning to learn is his version of high praise. "All right," he says, his voice losing some of its hollow echo in the improved acoustics of the flowing tunnel. "Let's walk the line." You begin to move again, deeper into the labyrinth. Your lamp, held out in front of you, carves a small, bobbing circle of orange light out of the infinite black. The darkness here is a physical thing. It's not just the absence of light. It's a heavy, velvety presence that swallows sound and plays tricks on your eyes. You keep glancing over your shoulder, convinced something is moving just at the edge of your vision, but there's never anything there. It's just the shadows, dancing in tune with your flickering flame. Close your eyes, Lucius says suddenly. You stop, confused. What? Close them. Then douse your lamp. It's an order, not a suggestion. Hesitantly, you cup your hand over the small flame, starving it of air. The world vanishes. The blackness is instantaneous and absolute. You've never experienced anything like it. It's a profound, disorienting void. For a moment, you feel a surge of panic, a primal fear of being buried alive. You can feel the weight of the entire city of Rome above you, the temples, the apartments, the millions of people pressing down. Now, listen. Lucius's voice is a disembodied whisper, seeming to come from all directions at once. What do you hear? You force yourself to concentrate, to push past the pounding of your own heart. At first, you hear nothing but a ringing in your ears, but then, slowly, other sounds emerge from the silence. The gentle, constant shush of the main current flowing past your legs. A steady drip. Drip. Drip from a crack in the ceiling somewhere to your left. A distant, low rumble that you realize is an iron-mined shod cart rolling over a street great far above. And then, a new sound. A tiny, frantic scratching, accompanied by a high minor-pitched squeak. Rats. Not just one. Dozens of them. They are in the walls, on the ledges, everywhere. You just couldn't hear them over the noise of your own movement and the crackle of your lamp. The sewer speaks a language, Lucius murmurs in the dark. You have to learn to hear it. The flow tells you the health of the line. The drips tell you where the stonework is weak. The echoes, they tell you the size of the chamber you are about to enter. This is the unwritten manual of your trade, knowledge passed down from veteran to novice. Historians can study the blueprints of the Cloaca. They can analyze the mortar and stone, but they can never know this sensory map, this intimate understanding of the living, breathing system. The most famous account of the sewers comes from the writer Pliny the Elder, who marveled at them, calling them a work more stupendous than the pyramids. He wrote of men navigating these tunnels in boats. The idea is almost comical to you now, standing in this cramped, sludge-minus-filled passage, perhaps in the vast main trunks, near the river outlet. A small boat was possible, but here, in the capillaries of the system, this is a world for wading, not for sailing. Academics still argue about the extent of this boat travel. Down here, you know the truth. It's a fairy tale for people who have never had to smell this place, let alone walk through it. All right, light up, Lucius commands. You fumble with your flint, your hands clumsy in the total darkness. The spark catches, the flame blossoms, and the world rushes back in, confined once again to your small circle of light. The sense of relief is overwhelming. And the rats, you ask, your voice a little shaky. They were here before us. They'll be here after us. Lucius says with a shrug you can't quite see. Mostly, they keep to themselves. Just don't corner one. And never, ever leave your lunch unguarded. He says it's so matter-minus of minus factory. This constant, scurrying presence is just another feature of the landscape. Like the moss on the walls or the filth under your feet, they are your neighbors. Your unwanted, uncountable roommates in the dark. You are beginning to understand. Survival down here is not just about the work. It's about becoming a creature of this place, using your ears as much as your eyes, and understanding the subtle, dangerous poetry of the echoes in the dark. You continue your patrol, following the main channel as it curves gently, a dark and sluggish river carving its path through the foundations of the city. The tunnel gradually widens and the ceiling arches higher, the stonework becoming more impressive. The rough hewn blocks of the older section give way to more refined Roman brickwork and larger, perfectly fitted voussoirs, the wedge-shaped stones that form the arch. The air, impossibly, feels a little fresher here, the current a little swifter. We're getting close to the main trunk, Lucius says, his voice losing some of its hollow echo in the larger space. This is where the real engineering begins. He holds his lamp up high, and the small flame reveals a truly awesome sight. You are standing at the confluence of several large sewer lines, a grand underground junction. The tunnel you are in is now wide enough for 2 cars to pass side minus by minus by minus side, and the ceiling is a good 20 feet above your head. The water here is deeper, almost to your waist, and it moves with a confident, powerful pull. It feels less like a sewer and more like a subterranean river, a lost tributary of the Tiber. This is the Cloaca Maxima proper, the great drain. What you weren't before were just its veins. This is the heart. You crane your neck back, the lamplight catching the glint of water seeping through impossibly ancient mortar. You can feel the sheer weight of history in this place, a mainstream historical fact, taught to every Roman schoolboy, is that this system was originally commissioned by one of Rome's legendary kings, Lucius Tarquinius Priscius, over 600 years before your time. He supposedly used Etruscan engineers and forced the poor of Rome to do the labor, creating an open-minus air canal to drain the marshy lowlands that would one day become the Roman Forum. What the schoolboys aren't told is the reality of that labor. The legends don't speak of the mud, the sickness, the sheer human cost of digging this massive trench, and they certainly don't mention the men who have to maintain it centuries later. You're standing in a monument, a wonder of the world. But it's a monument no tourist will ever see, a wonder no poet will ever write an ode to. Its success is measured by the fact that it is forgotten, hidden beneath the gleaming marble of the city it serves. Agrippa, Lucius says, tapping a section of the wall that is faced with smoother, more modern-looking bricks. He's the one who really turned this into what it is today. He's talking about Marcus Vips and Gaius Agrippa, the famous general and right-hand man to the first emperor, Augustus. About a century ago, Agrippa took on the role of aedile, the magistrate in charge of public works, and he took a particular interest in the sewers. They say, Lucius continues, his voice taking on the quality of a storyteller, that he rode through the entire network in a boat to inspect it himself, ordered a massive cleaning and expansion, connected all the new baths and fountains, made it a true system. You try to picture it, one of the most powerful men in the world, a man who commanded fleets and legions, voluntarily floating through this filth just to make sure it worked properly. The thought is both absurd and deeply impressive. It highlights a fundamental Roman paradox, a profound obsession with civic hygiene and engineering, existing alongside a complete disregard for the people who actually did the dirty work. Of course, the story of Agrippa's boat tour is likely an exaggeration, a bit of propaganda to burnish his reputation as a man of the people. This is one of those historical details that scholars love to debate. Did he really do it? Or was it just a tale spread to show his dedication, standing here, waist-minus deep in the cold, murky water? You find it hard to believe. No amount of civic duty could make this trip pleasant. You look down the vast, dark tunnel ahead. The current flows into a blackness so profound your lamp does nothing to pierce it. It's an artificial cave, a man-made underworld stretching for miles beneath the city, eventually emptying into the Tiber River. It carries away not just sewage, but also storm runoff from the streets, wastewater from the grand public baths, the blood and offal from the butcher shops at the farm, and the overflow from the city's countless fountains. It is the single most important piece of infrastructure in Rome. Without it, the city would drown in its own waste, choked by disease, within a matter of weeks. And you, the man no one will ever know, are its guardian, its curator, its keeper, a priest in a temple of filth. And this vast, dark, echoing cathedral of stone is your sacred, silent domain. The air you felt at the Grand Junction quickly fades, replaced by the dull, aching reality of the job. Your patrol continues, moving from the vast main channel back into the smaller, more claustrophobic tributaries. This is where the real work lies. The great trunks, with their powerful currents, largely clean themselves, but these smaller veins, fed by the latrines and workshops of a single neighborhood, are prone to clogging. Lucius points his hook toward a section of the tunnel ahead. "See that?" he grunts. "The flow is sluggish. It's pooling." You peer into the gloom. He's right. The gentle forward momentum of the water has almost ceased. The surface is unwrinkled still, reflecting the flame of your lamp like a dark, greasy mirror. This means there's a blockage up ahead, and it's a bad one. You wade forward, the water now rising to your chest, the pressure of it pushing against you. The air grows thick and stagnant, the foul smell intensifying with every step. You have to tilt your head back to keep your chin out of the vile liquid. This is the part of the job that grinds you down, not the sudden dangers, but the monotonous, soul-minus crushing filth. You reach the obstruction. It's a dense, semi-minus solid dam of refuse stretching from wall to wall. It's composed of everything you can imagine, and many things you can't. You see the glint of broken wine amphorae, the pale shades of animal carcasses from a butcher's shop, a huge, tangled mass of discarded textiles, and clumps of solidified cooking grease, all bound together with human waste and mud. It's a monument to the city's consumption, an archaeological cross-minus section of Roman daily life at its most unglamorous. There's no grand strategy here, no clever engineering solution. There is only brute, repetitive labor. You and Lucius take your positions, one on each side of the channel, and begin to attack the mass with your hooks. Toad, jab, pull. Your hook sinks into something soft and yielding. You pull back with all your might, your muscles screaming in protest. A large section of the dam rips free with a sound like tearing wet canvas. The foul water, briefly disturbed, releases a fresh wave of noxious gas that makes your eyes water and your stomach heave. You fight the urge to gag. Poke, jab, pull. Again and again. And our pussies, then another. Sweat mixes with the sewer slime on your skin. Your arms feel like lead. Your back is a knot of fire. This is the core of your existence. A physical reality historians can only guess at. They write about the curator-esque Cloaca rum, the curators of the sewers. But this title sounds far too dignified for the work you are doing. You are not a curator. You are a human shovel, a beast of burden in a stone tunnel. One of the more peculiar and less minus discussed aspects of Roman waste is the sheer volume of animal remains. While the rich ate the best cuts of meat, the rest of the animal, bones, organs, hulls, was often simply discarded. Much of it ended up here, in the sewers. You hook onto something hard and heavy and drag it out of the muck. It's the skull of a cow. Its empty eye sockets staring up at you in the lamplight. It's a surreal, grim discovery, a memento mori from a Roman dinner party. Poke, jab, pull. The work is mind-minus numbing, to pass the time, to keep the encroaching madness of the dark at bay. You focus on the sounds from the world above, through a street grate high in the ceiling. You can hear the faint shouts of children playing, the clatter of sandals on stone, the distant melody of a pipe. It's a reminder that another world exists, a world of sunlight and fresh air and laughter. It feels a million miles away. You wonder what they are doing up there, the people whose lives you are making possible. Are they eating, bathing, complaining about the price of figs at the market? They have no idea that you are down here, in the darkness, literally shouldering the burden of their refuse. Finally, with a great, groaning sigh, the central mass of the blockage gives way. A torrent of backed minus up water surges forward, a filthy wave that almost knocks you off your feet. You brace yourself against the wall as the liberated current scours the channel, carrying the last of the debris with it. The water level drops back down to your waist. The air begins to move again. The tunnel is clear. You lean against the cold, slimy wall, every muscle in your body trembling with exhaustion. Lucius is breathing heavily too. The first sign of fatigue you've seen from him all day. He doesn't say good job. He doesn't say well done. He simply straightens up, his shadow looming large on the wall behind him. All right, he rusks, his voice weary. Just another 300 cubits to the next major intersection. Let's go. There is no rest. There is no celebration of a job well done. There is only the next section of tunnel. The work is never finished. The filth is eternal. You are wading through a relatively clear section of a smaller tributary. The work has been blessedly easy for the last hour. Just minor accumulations of silt and debris, easily pushed along by the current. You've fallen into a state of numb complacency. The rhythm of walking and breathing in the dark becoming almost meditative. Your mind wanders. You think about the taste of bread, the warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of a woman laughing in the market. Anything but this. That's when you feel it. A subtle change in the air pressure. A slight popping in your ears. Lucius stops dead. He holds up his hand for silence. His head cocked, listening. Hear that? He whispers. You strain your ears, trying to hear past the usual gurgle of the water. And then you do. It's a low, distant tremble. A sound that seems to come from the very stones around you. It's not the sound of a cart overhead. This is different, deeper, more menacing. It's growing steadily louder. Storm, Lucius says, his voice tight with an urgency you've never heard before. A big one. It's hit the Esquiline Hill. All the runoff from the streets is coming our way. Now, panic, cold and sharp, cuts through your exhaustion. Lucius had warned you about this, but the casual warning was nothing compared to the reality of that approaching roar. You are miles from the river outlet, trapped in a narrow stone tube deep beneath the city. Roar 2. He barks, his voice sharp and commanding. Find a ladder. A high ledge. Anything. Move. He doesn't have to tell you twice. You both abandon any pretense of methodical work and begin to splash frantically through the tunnel, moving with the current, desperately scanning the walls with your bobbing lamps. The rumbling is a roar now, a constant, thundering presence that vibrates in your chest. The water around your legs is already beginning to pull with more force, the level rising perceptibly. There, Lucius shouts, pointing his hook ahead. In the flickering lamplight, you see it. A dark vertical line against the curved brickwork, an iron ladder, leading up to a maintenance shaft. It's maybe 50 paces away. It might as well be a mile. The first wave hits you. It's not a towering wall of water like you might imagine, but a powerful, surging swell, about a foot high, that is moving much faster than the normal current. It's shockingly cold. A torrent of fresh rainwater mixed with all the filth washed from the city's streets. Animal dung, discarded food, loose cobblestones, and everything else. The wave knocks you off balance, and you stumble, catching yourself just before you go under. The water is at your chest one moment, your neck the next. The roar is deafening now, a monstrous, watery avalanche echoing in the confined space. You scramble towards the ladder, your legs feeling heavy and useless against the force of the water. A piece of a wooden crate rushes past you in the torrent, missing your head by inches. You reach the ladder. Lucius is already there, gripping the rungs. Get up, he yells over the din. Don't stop until you're at the top. You grab the cold, slimy iron and haul yourself out of the raging water. Your soaked clothes and heavy sandals weigh you down, and your arms, already exhausted from the day's work, scream in protest. You climb, rung by slippery rung, the water churning undrising beneath you. This is a detail of your job that no official report would ever capture. The Romans were brilliant hydraulic engineers. They built aqueducts that stand to this day. They understood gradients, water pressure, and flow rates. But their system for storm drainage was brutally simple. Dump it all into the sewer. This made the Cloaca an incredibly dangerous place during a sudden summer downpour. It wasn't a design flaw, it was a feature. But it's a feature that could kill you. Historians debate how many workers were lost this way. Their bodies washed out into the Tiber, uncounted and unmoored. You're halfway up the shaft when the main torrent arrives. You look down and see the tunnel below completely submerged. The water are churning. Chaotic mass of black water and debris, rising up the shaft with terrifying speed. Lucius is right behind you, climbing with a steady, desperate rhythm. You finally reach the top. A small, circular chamber just below a massive stone grate that leads to the street. You press your face against the bars and look up. Rain is lashing down, daring the world above. You can see the legs of people running for cover, hear their shouts, muffled by the storm in the stone. They have no idea of the life minus and minus death drama unfolding just beneath their feet. You and Lucius huddle on the small platform, soaked, shivering, and breathing in ragged gasps. As the sewer rages below, you have survived, this time, but the flood is a stark reminder. The sewer is a beast. You may work in it, you may even learn its language, but you can never, ever tame it. And it is always hungry. The storm passes as quickly as it arrived. The roar of the floodwaters below subsides, replaced once again by the familiar, steady gaggle of the sewer's normal flow. The water level in the shaft has receded, leaving behind a foul-high minus watermark of slime and debris on the stone walls. You and Lucius, still shivering, climb back down the ladder into the familiar gloom. The tunnel is changed. The flash flood has scoured it, washing away the silt and grime, revealing the clean, impressive brickwork beneath. For a few brief hours, the sewer is almost beautiful, but the flood has also left behind new problems. Piles of heavier debris, rocks, broken pottery, even a discarded cartwheel, are now wedged in new and awkward places. Your work, it seems, is never done. You are moving into a deeper, older section of the network, one that Lucius tells you is rarely visited because it's known to be poorly ventilated. The air immediately feels different. It's thick, heavy, and strangely still. The normal, faint draft you've grown accustomed to is gone. The smell is also different. The familiar, organic stench of waste is now overlaid with something sharp and metallic, a scent that prickles the inside of your nose. Lucius moves more cautiously here. He holds his lamp out in front of him, not to see the path, but to watch the flame. Keep an eye on it, he murmurs, his voice low. If it starts to burn low, I'll shake it blue. We get out. First. You look at your own now. The small, yellow minus orange flame is steady for now. You don't fully understand the danger, but the tension in Lucius's posture is contagious. You find yourself holding your breath, watching your little flame as if it's the most important thing in the world. Because right now, it is. You are walking through a zone of invisible death. The Romans had no concept of atmospheric gases like we do. They didn't know about methane, hydrogen sulfide, or carbon monoxide. But they knew, from brutal experience, that certain parts of the earth, certain caves and tunnels, could kill a man without ever touching him. They called this phenomenon bad air, or spiritus lethal was the deadly breath. But they knew the results. This is where one of the most curious and debated pieces of a sewer worker's toolkit comes into play. Some ancient sources, though frustratingly vague, mention that workers would sometimes bring aged birds, likely chickens, down into the tunnels with them. The idea was that the bird, being more sensitive to the bad air, would show signs of distress or collapse long before a human would, giving the workers a vital early warning. It's the ancient precursor to the canary in the coal mine. Whether this was a widespread, standard practice or just a localized folk remedy is a topic of intense scholarly argument. There are no official supply manifests listing one sewer worker, one hook, one chicken. Lucius, it seems, prefers the lamp method. The flame of an oil lamp needs oxygen to burn. In an environment with low oxygen or high concentrations of other gases, the flame will change its behavior. It's a simple, effective, and terrifyingly crude gas detector. Your life depends on your ability to notice a subtle change in a tiny flicker of light. You come to a section where the ceiling is low, forcing you to crouch. The air is almost completely still here, and the metallic tang is stronger. The water is stagnant, covered in a shimmering, oily film. This is a dead end. A branch of the sewer that was improperly designed, without enough of a gradient to keep the water flowing. It's a perfect cauldron for brewing deadly gases from the decomposing waste. A blockage, Lucius whispers, pointing to a dense wall of filth that seals the end of the tunnel. It's what's trapping the air. He holds his lamp forward, inching it closer to the stagnant water. You watch, your heart pounding. The flame, which had been a steady yellow, begins to shrink. It flickers, and a faint, ghostly blue halo appears around its base. That's it, Lucius says instantly, his voice calm but firm. We're done here. Back out, slow and steady. Don't stir the water. He begins to back away, his movements deliberate. You follow, your eyes glued to your own lamp, which is now also showing a tiny blue edge to its flame. The simple act of backing up, of walking away, feels like the most important thing you have ever done. Every instinct is telling you to turn and run. But you know that any sudden movement could stir up the gas, bringing a more concentrated pocket of it up from the water's surface. You retreat 100 paces, back to where the air begins to move again. Your lamp's flame returns to its normal, healthy yellow. You both stop and lean against the wall. The relief so profound it leaves you feeling weak and dizzy. You just stared into an invisible abyss and walked away. You didn't clear the blockage. That task, Lucius explains, is for another day. A day when the winds above are strong, creating a draft that might pull the bad air out. Or it's a job for a new man they don't particularly like. You look down at your hands, then at the small, simple lamp. You have a new, profound respect for this little piece of clay. It is your guide, your tool, and your guardian. It tells you where the path is, and it tells you where the path ends in a silent, breathless death. Having retreated from the gassy dead end, Lucius leads you into a different kind of tunnel. It's a wide, brick-lined cylinder, much newer than the ancient stone sections. The water here is shallow, barely ankle deep, and surprisingly clear. This channel doesn't carry household waste. It carries overflow from one of the city's grand aqueducts. A steady stream of clean, fresh water used to continuously flush the main sewer lines. It's a moment of blessed relief. The air is cool and dark, almost free of the usual stench. You take a moment to splash the clean water on your face and arms. A small act of baptism that feels incredibly luxurious. You feel almost human again. The relative quiet in this tunnel is different, too. Without the thick sludge to muffle sounds, every little noise echoes. The drip of water from the ceiling is sharp and clear. The scuttling of a beetle across the floor sounds like a tiny chariot. It's in this amplified silence that you first notice them, not with your eyes, but with your ears. A soft, red, slithering sound from a dark side pipe just ahead. It's not the frantic scratching of a rat. This is slower, heavier. Lucius holds up a hand, stopping you. He shines his lamp towards the opening of the pipe. At first, you see nothing but darkness. Then, two small points of light reflect back from the greasy brickwork. Eyes, but not the beady, black eyes of a rodent. These are pale, almost colorless. Slowly, a creature emerges from the pipe. It's a snake, but it's unlike any you've ever seen in the sunlit world. It's long and thick, perhaps the length of your arm, but its scales are a sickly, translucent white, like old parchment. It moves with a slow, languid confidence, perfectly at home in the darkness. It tastes the air with its forked tongue. Its pale eyes, having no use for sight in this world, staring blankly in your direction. It seems utterly unbothered by your presence. Drain snake, Lucius says in a low voice. Harmless, they'd eat the rats. You watch, mesmerized. as the ghostly creature slides into the clean water and swims gracefully away, disappearing into the shadows down the tunnel. It's just one of the many strange inhabitants of this subterranean ecosystem. The sewer is not just a conduit for waste. It's a world unto itself, a sprawling, linear nature preserve for things that shun the light. This is a side of Roman life that is completely absent from the history books. While naturalists like Pliny the Elder were meticulously documenting the flora and fauna of the sunlit empire, a whole separate evolutionary track was unfolding down here. Generations of creatures, originally washed in from the world above, were adapting to a life of total darkness, constant dampness, and a diet of refuse and each other. You continue walking, and you begin to see more signs of this hidden life. You see thick, white strands of fungus, growing in bizarre, chandelier-like formations from the ceiling, thriving on the moisture and nutrients in the air. You see swarms of pale, colorless insects that scatter like living dust motes from the beam of your lamp. Historians and biologists centuries later will speculate about this. Did unique subspecies truly evolve down here? Or were these just ordinary creatures, their appearance altered by the lack of sunlight? The answer is buried too deep to ever be known for certain. In a shallow, silt-filled pool off to the side, you see a flicker of movement. Lucius angles his lamp, and you see a fish, about the size of your hand, lying in the muck. Like the snake, it's a pale, ghostly white, and its eyes are just tiny, useless black dots. An eel, perhaps, or a catfish, washed in from the Tiber, now living its entire life in this starless river. Some of the new men try to catch them. Lucius mutters, a hint of disdain in his voice, for a bit of extra food. A foolish risk. Who knows what sickness they carry from this water? It's a stark reminder of the desperation that doctored men to this job. The thought of eating anything that has lived in this filth is repulsive. But for someone truly starving, a free piece of protein might be worth the gamble. It also opens up a strange, almost unbelievable possibility, the existence of a sewer able culinary tradition, a secret menu for the absolute lowest strungs of Roman society. The most unnerving encounter is yet to come. As you round a bend, your lamplight falls upon a pair of much larger eyes, glowing a faint, eerie green from a high lid. These are not the eyes of a snake or a fish. They belong to something with fur, something mammalian. A low hiss echoes in the tumult. You see the silhouette of a cat, a huge, feral tome, gaunt and scarred. Its coat is matted and filthy, but it moves with the silent, predatory grace of a miniature panther. It stares down at you, not with fear, but with a look of cold, territorial appraisal. This is its kingdom. You are just a trespass. You and the cat have a silent standoff for a long moment. Then, with a flick of its tail, it turns and vanishes back into a crack in the wall. You are left with the lingering image of those glowing green eyes. You realize that you and your fellow cleaners are not the only hunters in this darkness. There is a whole food chain down here, a complex web of life and death, and you are just a clumsy, temporary visitor in its ancient, hidden world. The work continues, a monotonous cycle of wading, prodding, then clearing. Your world has shrunk to the small, bobbing circle of light from your lamp and the endless, oppressive darkness beyond it. Your mind, starved of stimulation, starts to fixate on the details within that circle. You notice the infinite textures of the slime on the walls, the way the water eddies around a loose stone, the rainbow sheen of oil on a stagnant pool. You are working to clear a small grate that allows water from a street level drain to enter the sewer. It's choked with a predictable collection of refuse, waterlogged leaf, animal bones, and the ever present shards of broken pottery. You jab your hook into the moss, pulling away chunks of debris and letting the current carry them off. As you pull away a final, sodden lump of cloth, something catches the light. It's not the dull gleam of wet stone or the greasy shine of filth. It's a bright, sharp, metallic flash, a pinpoint of brilliant gold. Curiosity overrides your ingrained caution. You break Lucius's cardinal rule. Rule 3. Don't use your hands. Bitter. You reach down into the cold, foul water, your fingers fumbling through the remaining grit and grime around the grate. You feel something small, cold, and circular. You pinch it between your thumb and forefinger and pull it out of the muck. You hold it up to the lamplight, wiping away the filth on your tunic. It's a ring. A woman's ring, small and delicate, crafted from pure gold. In its center is a masterfully carved intaglio. A small, deep red carnelian stone etched with the image of a dove holding an olive branch. It's a piece of exquisite craftsmanship, a tiny work of art. It's worth more money than you would make in a year, in 10 years. For a moment, you just stare at it, lying in the palm of your filthy hand. The contrast is staggering. This object, a symbol of wealth, of love, of a clean and beautiful world, is here, in the absolute filthiest place in the city. You imagine the woman who wore it, a senator's wife, perhaps, or a wealthy merchant's daughter. You picture her walking through the forum, her hands gesturing as she speaks, the sun flashing on this very ring. Maybe it slipped from her finger as she tossed a coin to a beggar. Maybe it fell as she leaned over the edge of a fountain. Or maybe it was stolen, and a thief, in his haste, dropped it down a drain. Its story, its journey from her finger to your hand, is a mystery you will never solve. But its presence here is a powerful reminder of the world above. Just a few feet of stone and dirt separate you from a life of such unimaginable luxury. You are physically closer to the centers of power and wealth than almost any other poor citizen in Rome. Yet you are a world away. Lucius wades over, curious about your sudden stillness. He peers at the ring in your hand. He doesn't show surprise or excitement, just a weary resignation. He's seen this before. A little piece of heaven in a river of hell. He mutters, happens now and then. Coins, brooches, earrings. The city is careless with its treasures. This was a known, if rare, perk of the job. Sewer cleaners, or Cloaca, were in a unique position to find lost valuables. It was, in a sense, a form of high-risk, low-reward treasure hunting. But finding something and keeping it were two different things. There were overseas, and any valuable items were supposed to be turned over. Keeping such a find was a tremendous risk. This is a subject of some historical debate. Was there a formal system for this, or an internal one? Did overseers demand a cut, or did they simply take everything? Or was it a free minus for minus all, where the motto was finders, keepers, if you can get away with it? The truth was likely a messy combination of all three, depending on the crew and the man in charge. So, what do? Lucius asks, his voice low and conspiratorial. He's testing you. Your next move will define your relationship with him, and your place in this small, grimy brotherhood. You look at the ring. It represents a way out, a chance to buy good food, new clothes, to leave this life behind. But it also represents a huge danger. Being caught with it would mean a flogging, or worse. And how would you even sell it? A man who smells like the sewer turning up with a noblewoman's ring would attract the kind of attention that gets people arrested. You could give it to Lucius. But what would he do? You could try to hide it. But where? You have no pockets, no bag. Your only possession is your own filthy tunic. The golden dust seems to mock you from its carnelian prison. A symbol of peace. It has brought you nothing but turmoil. For a long moment, you weigh the options. The glittering promise of the gold against the cold, hard reality of your situation. The world above dangles a tiny, perfect piece of itself in front of you, a treasure found in the trash, forcing you to make a choice that could change your life, or end it. You make your decision. With a heavy heart that feels both foolish and wise, you close your hand around the ring and hold it out to Lucius, not as a gift, not as a bribe, but as a problem to be solved. You don't say a word. Your eyes ask the question for you. What do we do? Lucius looks at the ring in your offered hand, then back at your face, A flicker of something, surprise, respect, crosses his features. He takes the ring, his calloused, grimy fingers dwarfing the delicate object. He turns it over and over in the lamplight, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, the only sound is the gentle lapping of the sewer water against your legs. Then, with a motion so quick it startles you, he turns his hand over and lets the ring drop. It vanishes into the murky water with a soft plink, the sound swallowed almost instantly by the gloom. The flash of gold is gone, reclaimed by the filth. Some treasures are too heavy to carry, is all he says. He turns and begins to wade away. And you know, without another word being spoken, that you have passed his test. You have chosen the brotherhood over the goal, survival over a dangerous dream. The bond between you, forged in shared misery, has just been tempered into something stronger. Your shift eventually ends. Another worker, his face just as weary as yours, arrives to take your place in the endless patrol. Lucius leads you back the way you came, through the labyrinth of stone and brick, until you see it, a distant, hazy square of light. It's the ladder leading back to the antechamber, back to the world above. Climbing out is a strange kind of rebirth. With each rung, the air grows warmer and drier. The roar of the city, which you could only feel as a dull vibration before, grows into a distinct, overwhelming symphony of life. You emerge from the dark hole into the small stone room, blinking against the sudden, shocking brightness of the late afternoon sun slanting through the archway. It feels like a physical blow, and you raise a hand to shield your eyes, which have grown accustomed to the gentle dance of a single flame. You step out onto the street of the suburb. The world assaults your senses. The colors are impossibly vivid, the sunlight painfully bright. The noise of the crowd is a physical force, but the most powerful sensation is the smell, or rather, the smells. You can suddenly pick out every individual scent in the air. The sharp tang of wine from a nearby tavern, the sweetness of overripe figs on a vendor's cart, the dust kicked up by a passing courier. It's a rich, complex perfume compared to the monolithic stench you've been breathing for the past 8 hours. And then you become aware of your own smell. It's both foul, clinging aura of decay and dampness. You are a walking piece of the sewer, an ambassador from the underworld, and the people of Rome react accordingly. A richly dressed woman, her hair elaborately braided, is walking towards you. As she gets closer, her nose wrinkles in disgust. She pulls the edge of her fine pallor over her face and gives you a wide berth, her expression a mixture of contempt and fear, as if you might contaminate her with your mere presence. A group of children, who had been chasing a dog, stop their game and stare at you, whispering and pointing. One of them holds his nose. A merchant, standing in the doorway of his shop, yells at you to get away, not to bring your foulness near his wares. This is the daily reality for a Cloaca Rius. You are essential, but you are also an outcast. You perform a vital service for the city's health. Yet you are treated as a source of pollution. The pariah. This social stigma is a historical fact, though it's rarely dwelled upon in the grand histories of Rome. You are what sociologists would later call untouchable. Your profession makes you ritually and socially unclean. You can't enter a temple without undergoing extensive purification. You can't eat at a public cookshop without clearing a space around you. You are seen, but not seen. People look through you, their gaze sliding off as if you are a particularly unpleasant piece of street refuse. Lucius is already collecting your pay from the overseer, a grim Midas-faced man who counts out the small bronze and copper coins without making eye contact. Lucius brings your share over. It's not much, but it's more than you had yesterday. It's enough for a loaf of bread, a hunk of cheese, and a cup of the cheapest, sourest wine. It's enough to live, to survive until you have to descend again tomorrow. You take the coins. They feel heavy and real in your hand. You earned them. You walk through hell for them. As you turn to leave, you catch your reflection in a puddle of grimy water. The face that stares back is a stranger's, streaked with filth, The eyes widened, accustomed to darkness. The expression haunted. You have survived your first day. But as you walk away, the crowd parting before you like the Red Sea, you realize that the filth of the sewer doesn't just wash off. It soaks into your skin, into your clothes, and into the way the world looks at you. Days turn into weeks. The initial shock of the job hardens into a dull, monotonous routine. Descend, look, clean, survive, ascend. The city above, with its noise and its sun, starts to feel like a dream. World dark. Wet world below becomes your primary reality. The faces of the other workers, once just grim shadows in the lamplight, slowly resolve into individuals. There's Gaius, a weary man with a cough that rattles his entire frame, who claims he can tell what neighborhood you're under by the specific taste of the water, a skill you have no desire to test. There's Marcus, a hulking giant of a man who rarely speaks, but can dislodge a blockage with a single brutal pull of his hook that the rest of you couldn't budge working together. And there's Decimus, the oldest of the crew, a man whose skin seems to have taken on the pale, grey color of the sewer walls. He moves with a slow, deliberate pace, his body aching from decades of this work, but his knowledge of the tunnels is absolute. He is a living map of the Cloaca. You are now part of this strange and exclusive club, a brotherhood of filth. The social ostracism you face in the world above has a powerful, inverse effect in the world below. Down here, stripped of all other social standing, you are equals. The scorn of the outside world acts like a forge, welding you together with bonds of shared hardship that are stronger than any friendship you've ever known. This camaraderie manifests in small, unspoken ways. It's in the way Marcus will silently position himself upstream from you when you're struggling with a heavy piece of debris, using his own body to deflect the main force of the current. It's in the way Gaius will share his small ration of oil if your lamp is burning low near the end of a shift. It's in the way Decimus will tap a particular section of the ceiling with his hook and grunt, loose stone, saving you from a potential head injury. These are not grand gestures of heroism. They are the quiet, practical mechanics of mutual survival. You learn to read each other's movements in the near-minus total darkness, to understand a grunt, a tuff, a sudden stillness. You communicate in a language of shadows and echoes. One day, you are working in a particularly nasty section, clearing a latrine outflow from a large apartment block. The stench is overwhelming, and the work is exhausting. Suddenly, you feel a sharp, searing pain in your calf. You cry out and stumble, your lamp falling from your hand and extinguishing with a hiss, plunging your section of the tunnel into absolute blackness. Panic seizes you. You've broken Rule 3. You've been cut. And now you are blind. What is it? Lucius's voice cuts through the dark, sharp with concern. My leg. You gasp, the pain radiating up your thigh. Something cut me. Instantly, you see the bobbing light of Lucius's lamp approaching. Aetius there in a moment, holding the light steady. He helps use it on a low, stone ledge, out of the main current. The water around your leg is dark with a tinge of red. Lucius probes the water near where you were standing with his hook and pulls up a large, jagged shard of a broken olive oil amphora, its edge razor minus sharp. He examines the gash on your leg. It's deep. We have to get you out, he says, his voice grim. Now, what happens next is a testament to the crew's bond. Lucius lets out a specific, piercing whistle that echoes down the tunnels. Within minutes, Marcus and Gaius appear from the darkness. There is no discussion, no debate. They see the wound. They understand the danger. The ever-minus present threat of infection, what Romans called sepsis, is a death sentence if left untreated. Marcus, the quiet giant, simply lifts you as if you were a child, draping you over his massive shoulder. The journey back to the surface is a painful, jarring blur. Marcus's powerful strides, Gaius lighting the way, Lucius clearing the path with his hook. They work as a single organism, a 4-man creature of the dark. Its sole purpose to get you to safety. They get you to the surface and lay you in a sliver of shade in a back alley. The wound is bleeding freely now. Without a word, Gaius pulls a strip of cloth from the cleanest part of his own tunic, a significant sacrifice, and binds the wound tightly. The existence of formal guilds, or collegiae, for sewer workers is a matter of intense academic debate. Some inscriptions suggest they existed, offering a proper burial and support for members' families. Others argue these were for the higher-level supervisors and engineers, not for the grunts doing the actual cleaning, but formula not. The bond you just experienced was real. It was a collegium of shared risk, a union of the damned. They saved you not because of a rulebook, but because they knew that next time, it could be them, and in the dark heart of Rome, surrounded by a million people who despised you, your only hope for survival was each other. Your leg wound, thanks to the quick action of your crew and a poultice of wine minus soaked herbs applied by a back Sally healer, does not fester after a few days of info-stressed. Feeling the sun on your skin and eating solid food, you are almost reluctant to go back. But the coins don't turn themselves. You return to the dark. The gash on your cuff now a puckered, angry scar, a permanent souvenir of your education in the sewers. The experience has changed you. Your understanding of the tunnels is no longer just a series of disconnected work sites. You are beginning to piece together a mental map of the entire system. It's a strange and unique form of cartography. You don't think in terms of streets and landmarks, but in terms of flows and junctions. You start to recognize the unique flavor of each tributary. A channel that runs beneath a row of bakeries is always warmer. The water carrying fine silt from the grinding mills. The sewer line from the Vime Idle Hill, with its many dyeing and tanning workshops, carries a sharp, chemical stench and sometimes flows in unnatural colors, a murky red from madder root, or a foul yellow from saffron. You learn that a sudden influx of fines and the smell of olive oil means the gladiators at the Colosseum have just finished their pre-combat rub-downs at the nearby Ludus. You are learning to read the city's entrails. The Cloaca is a giant, stone intestine, and its contents tell the story of the life of the city above. You know it's a festival day not by the sounds of celebration, which are too distant to hear clearly, but by the sudden deluge of exotic food scraps, fish heads from the coast, discarded oyster shells, and the pits of expensive, imported dates. You know a wealthy senator is hosting a banquet when a torrent of wind dregs, so potent it makes the air smell like a tavern, comes rushing down the line from the Palatine Hill. This intimate, sensory connection to the city's functions is a piece of history lost to time. Official records can tell us about Roman diets, industries, and social habits, but you are experiencing the raw data firsthand. You are a subterranean archaeologist, sifting through the evidence of a civilization in real time. One afternoon, Lucius takes you to a new section. Inspection duty, he says. They've just connected the new baths of Trajan. You enter a channel that is pristine. The brickwork is perfect, the mortar clean and white. The tunnel is wide and high, a testament to the latest in Roman engineering. A powerful, steady stream of warm, clean smelling water flows through it. This is the discharge from the Coldarium, the hot room of the massive new public bath complex above. You walk through this new tunnel, your lump held high, not looking for blockages, but for flaws in the construction, cracks, leaks, or signs of settling. It's a strange feeling. To be the very first person to walk through this space. You are its Christina, its first witness. High above, you can see a series of small, circular openings in the ceiling. Through them, you can hear the faint, echoing sounds of the barfish, the shouts and laughter of men, the splash of water, the scrape of a streagill against skin. You are directly beneath one of the most magnificent buildings in Rome, a symbol of the emperor's generosity and the empire's power. It's a place of leisure, cleanliness, and socializing for thousands of Roman citizens. And it all depends on you, on this tunnel, Without this constant, massive outflow of water, the baths could not function. The pools would become stagnant. The heating systems would fail. The very concept of Roman public bathing, a cornerstone of their culture, is built upon the silent, unseen foundation of the sewer system you maintain. Historians often focus on the aqueducts that brought the clean water in, celebrating them as engineering marvels, but they rarely consider the equally vital, and far more complex, system for taking all that water away. It's a classic case of focusing on the glorious beginning of a process while ignoring its messy, essential end. You finish your inspection. The tunnel is perfect. As you turn to leave, you place a hand on the new brickwork. It's still warm from the bathing water above. For a fleeting moment, you feel a connection, a sense of shared experience with the thousands of men enjoying their leisure just a few feet away. They are bathing in the light. You are wading in the darkness, but you are both, in that moment, part of the same vast, intricate, and interconnected machine that is Rome. The seasons turn, marked not by the changing light or the budding of trees, but by the subtle shifts in the sewer's character. In summer, the heat makes the stench thicker, more oppressive, and the lower water levels reveal foul mud banks that have to be shoveled away. In winter, the constant chill of the water seeps into your bones, a cold that no amount of cheap wine can ever truly banish. You've been on the job for over a year now. You are no longer a novice. You know the tunnels. You know the dangers. You know the work. But the work is starting to leave its mark on you. Not just in scars, but in a deeper, more insidious way. It begins with your skin. The constant immersion in the foul water, a chemical soup of waste, dyes, and bacteria, takes its toll. You develop persistent rashes in the crooks of your arms and on the backs of your knees. Small cuts and scrapes that would have healed in a day in the upper world now linger for weeks, becoming angry, weeping sores that refuse to close. At night, in your small, rented room in a crumbling insula, you lie awake, scratching at the incessant, maddening itch. Then comes the cough. It starts as a minor tickle in your throat, but soon develops into a deep, rattling hack that brings up thick, grey phlegm. It's a wet, productive cough, the kind that echoes in the tunnels and earns you sympathetic glances from Gaius, whose own cough seems to be getting worse. Everyone on the crew has it. It's the sewer's kiss, a constant companion, a reminder of the foul, damp air you breathe for half of every day. You feel a perpetual weariness, a leak in your muscles and joints that never quite goes away. Your body, which was your only asset, is beginning to betray you. You are aging in dog years, the filth and the darkness accelerating the natural process of decay. This is the unwritten history of occupational disease. While Roman physicians like Galen were busy dissecting animals and writing brilliant treatises on anatomy and medicine for the wealthy elite, the health of the working class was largely ignored. There were no studies on the long-term effects of inhaling sewer gas. No understanding of the bacterial infections caused by constant exposure to contaminated water. Your ailments have no formal names. They are simply the cost of doing your job. Historians can only speculate on the life expectancy of a Cloaca, but the consensus is that it was brutally short. You were old at 40, ancient at 50. If you lived that long, one morning, you wake up shivering, though the air in your room is hot and stuffy. A fire burns behind your eyes, and your head pounds with a dull, rhythmic pain. When you try to stand, the room spins, and you collapse back onto your straw mattress, your body drenched in a cold sweat. You had a fever. Lucius's Rule 3 echoes in your mind. Get a cut, and the water gets in, you get a fever. You think of the oozing sore on your hand that you got from a sharp piece of bone last week, a wound you had ignored. The poison of the sewer is now inside you, coursing through your veins. For 2 days, you are lost in a delirium. You drift in and out of consciousness. Your dreams a terrifying collage of churning dark water, ghostly white snakes, and the accusing eyes of the cow skull. The sounds of the subway outside your window, the shouting vendors, the crying babies, the endless noise of life, fade into a distant, meaningless hum. Your world shrinks to the confines of your own feverish body, the small, stuffy room, and the battle being waged within your blood. On the third day, the fever breaks. You wake up, weak and drenched in sweat, but clear minus-headed. The fire behind your eyes is gone. You have survived, but the illness has taken a heavy toll. You have lost weight you couldn't afford to lose. Your cough is deeper now, more persistent. You feel a new, profound fragility, a sense that your body is a fortress with crumbling walls, and the enemy is already inside. You know you should rest, but you can't. 2 days without work means 2 days without pay. 2 days without pay means no food. It's a cruel, simple arithmetic, so you pull yourself to your feet, your legs trembling, and make your way back to the archway, back to the descent. As you step into the cool, foul air of the sewer, a wave of dizziness washes over you. You are weaker than before, more vulnerable. But the filth is eternal, the work is never done, and your only choice is to endure. Your recovery from the fever is slow and incomplete. The weakness lingers, and the rattling cough is now your constant shadow. Your fellow workers notice, of course. They see the tremor in your hands, the way you now pause to lean against the tunnel wall after a period of heavy work. Decimus, the old veteran, pulls you aside one day, his pale eyes full of a weary, paternal concern. "You need to see a healer," he rasps, his voice barely a whisper. The fever left its mark. You can't let the poison win. You know he's right, but the prospect is daunting. Proper physicians, the ones trained in the Greek tradition who serve the wealthy, are impossibly expensive. Their remedies involve imported herbs, expensive consultations, and theories about the four humors that mean nothing to you. Your world is a different one, a world of folk medicine, superstition, and cheap, desperate cures. Decimus gives you a recommendation. Go to the Encyclopedia, he says, naming one of the largest and most notorious apartment blocks in the city. In the courtyard, there's an old woman named Lyra. She knows the ailments of the damp places. She's cheap. That evening, after your shift, you make your way to the Encyclopedia. It's a towering, ramshackle tenement, a vertical slum that seems to defy gravity. You find the courtyard, a noisy, chaotic space teeming with life. In a dark corner, surrounded by cages of chickens and bundles of dried herbs, sits Lyra. She is ancient, her face a road map of wrinkles, her eyes as sharp and bright as a bird's. You describe your symptoms: the cough, the weakness, the sores on your skin that refuse to heal. She listens, nodding, her expression betraying nothing. She doesn't examine you, she simply looks at you. A long, appraising gaze that seems to see right through your skin to the sickness within. The spirits of the underworld have latched onto you, she declares, her voice a dry crackle. You carry the sour breath of the Cloaca in your lungs. We must purify you. Her remedy is a classic example of the kind of medicine available to Rome's poor. It's a jumble of practical herbalism, magical thinking, and outright quackery. She sells you two things. The first is a small, clay amulet, crudely stamped with the image of a scorpion. This will ward off the noxious spirits. She explains. Wear it around your neck. Never take it off. The second is a small pouch of dried herbs and powders. The mixture is pungent and smells of garlic, sulfur, and something vaguely like mold. Boil this with cheap wine, she instructs. Drink a cup every morning before you descend. And, she leans closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, burn some of it on a pot heard and breathe the smoke deep into your lungs. It will drive the dampness out. You pay her the few copper coins she asks for and leave, the amulet feeling strange and cold against your skin. The pouch of herbs clutched in your hand. This is the reality of healthcare for the Roman working class. It was a chaotic marketplace of competing ideas. A person might visit a temple of escapees to pray for a divine cure, then buy a magical amulet from a street vendor, and finally consult an herbalist for a practical remedy, all for the same ailment. It wasn't about science. It was about trying anything and everything in the hope that something might work. Historians often debate the effectiveness of these folk remedies. While some herbal mixtures might have had genuine, if limited, medicinal properties, garlic, for instance, was known for its antiseptic qualities, many were useless or even harmful. The instruction to inhale smoke is particularly telling. To a Roman, it made a kind of intuitive sense. Fight a sickness caused by damp air with its opposite. Hot, dry smoke. We now know that inhaling smoke is one of the worst things you can do for a lung ailment. That night, you follow her instructions. You dutifully put the amulet around your neck. You boil the herbs in sour wine, creating a foul-smelling, gritty concoction that you force yourself to swallow. It tastes vile and makes your stomach churn. Then, you burn a pinch of the powder. The smoke is acrid and stings your eyes. You lean over it and inhale deeply, as instructed. A violent coughing fit seizes you, so powerful it leaves you breathless and dizzy, black spots dancing in your vision. You collapse onto your mattress, your chest burning, the amulet digging into your skin. You feel no better. In fact, you feel worse. The amulet offers no comfort, and the potion and smoke feel like a violation. You lie there in the dark, smelling the lingering sulphurous smoke, and realize the profound, terrifying truth of your situation. You are on your own. There are no magical cures. There are no wise healers who can save you. There is only your weakening body, and the endless, patient filth of the sewer, waiting for you to return tomorrow. The amulet proves useless, and the herbal concoction only seems to worsen your cough. You stop the treatments, deciding that enduring the sickness is better than enduring the cure. You throw yourself back into the work, finding a grim comfort in the familiar. Mindless rhythm, hard labor, at least, is an honest pain. A few weeks later, a new and urgent problem arises. An emergency summons comes from the overseer. The sewers beneath the Villa Broom, a wealthy market district nestled between the Capitoline and Palatine Hills, are backing up. Water isn't just pooling. It's bubbling up through the street level drains, flooding the stone floors of expensive shops selling silks, spices, and perfume. This is not just an inconvenience. It's a crisis. When the sewer inconveniences the poor in the subURA, it's a problem for another day. When it threatens the profits of the rich, it's a disaster that requires immediate action. Your entire crew is dispatched to the area. Lucius leads the way, his face set in a grim, determined line. The mood is tense. This isn't a routine patrol. It's a major operation. The pressure from the overseers, and from the wealthy merchants above, is immense. You descend into the main trunk line that serves the district. The problem is immediately apparent. The water, which should be flowing swiftly here, is a deep, stagnant lake. The level is almost to the ceiling of the tunnel, leaving only a few feet of air space. The pressure of the backed-up water is immense, and it pushes you backward as you try to wade in. It's a big one, Marcus says, his deep voice echoing in the confined space. A full collapse. Maybe. We have to find the source, Lucius commands. We'll work in pairs. Stay close. Don't get separated. You are paired with Decimus, the old veteran. You begin the slow, arduous process of pushing against the current, moving deeper into the flooded section. The water is so high you have to angle your head sideways to breathe, your cheeks scraping against the slimy brickwork of the ceiling. Your lamp, held just inches above the water's surface, casts a feeble, claustrophobic light. The thought of the tunnel completely trapping you, is a constant, nagging fear. This situation highlights a crucial aspect of the Cloaca's design. It was a gravity-fed system. There were no pumps, No modern pressure systems. Everything depended on a precise, gentle slope, an uninterrupted flow towards the Tiber. A major blockage like this didn't just stop the flow. It caused a catastrophic backup that could render entire sections of the city's sanitation system useless, with disgusting and immediate consequences for the people living above. After what feels like an eternity of struggling through the deep, black water, Maxima stops. "Here," he says, his voice strained. "Feel that." He guides your hand underwater. You feel it immediately. A solid wall. It's not the semi-minor soft mass of a normal debris dam. This is hard, unyielding. It's a wall of stone and mortar. A foundation collapse. Maxima's diagnosis. Some rich fool above has been building a new extension to his villa. His builders weren't careful. They dug too deep, broke through the tunnel arch. It's the worst minus case scenario. A huge mass of rubble, bricks, mortar, and earth from the construction site above has fallen into the sewer, creating a nearly impenetrable dam. Your hooks are useless against this. You can't just pull it apart. The crew gathers at the site of the blockage. The situation looks impossible, but Lucius, ever the pragmatist, has a plan. "We can't go through it," he says, his voice echoing over the foul water, "so we go around it." His plan is audacious and incredibly dangerous. He intends to use sledgehammers to break through the side wall of the sewer tunnel, into the soft earth and gravel that surrounds it. You will then dig a narrow, temporary bypass channel through the dirt, parallel to the blocked section, and then break back into the main tunnel on the other side of the collapse. You will, in effect, perform underground surgery on the city, creating a new artery while the old one is blocked. The work is brutal. Marcus, the giant, wields the sledgehammer, standing in chest-minus deep water, swinging the massive tool in the cramped space. The sound is deafening. A series of bone-minus jarring concussions that reverberate through the water and the stone. Each impact feels like a blow to your own chest. Once a hole is made, the digging begins. You use your hands, your hooks, whatever you can, to claw at the wet earth, passing the mud and rock back in a human chain. It's terrifying work. You are digging in unstable, unsupported soil. The risk of the bypass tunnel collapsing and burying you alive is enormous. This type of high minus stakes emergency repair is something the historical records rarely mention. We have the grand inscription celebrating the initial construction, but the story of the constant, desperate fight to maintain the system is lost. It is a history of mud, sweat, and terror, carried out by men whose names were never recorded, to solve problems that were never meant to happen. You are not just cleaning the sewer. You are holding it together, fighting against the constant, immense pressure of the city that threatens to crush it. And you, from above. Hours bleed into one another in the frantic, muddy darkness of the bypass tunnel. The air is thick with the smell of wet earth and exertion, a smell that almost overpowers the usual sewer stench. Your body screams with fatigue, but the urgency of the task, the shared sense of purpose, keeps you moving. You dig. You hole. You brace the makeshift tunnel walls with scavenged planks of wood. Finally, Marcus takes up the sledgehammer again and, with a final series of deafening blows, you break through the brickwork back into the main sewer line, downstream from the collapse. Baitier, Rand exhausted, echoes in the tunnel. You have done it. A trickle of water from the backed minus up section finds its way through your muddy little detour. Then a stream, then a torrent. The pressure begins to ease. The immediate crisis is averted. The wealthy merchants of the Villabrum can now return to selling their silks without having to wade through their own filth. You and your crew will receive no special bonus, no public thanks. Your reward is simply that you have not failed. Exhausted, caked in mud and grime from head to toe, you find a relatively dry ledge to sit on for a moment, the newly flowing water swirling around your aching legs. You notice Maximus, the old veteran. A few feet away, He has taken a small, flat stone from his pouch. With a piece of charcoal, he carefully scratches a simple symbol onto it, a stylized, wavy line, representing water. He then leans down, his old joints cracking in protest, and places the stone into a small, almost unapatable niche in the brickwork. Just above the new water level, he murmurs a few words, too quiet for you to hear over the gurgle of the water. His head bowed for a moment. Then he straightens up, sees you watching, and gives a small, weary nod. "I pray," he says simply, "to the goddess. You've heard whispers of her among the crew, but have never seen any overt signs of worship. He's talking about Cloaca, the goddess of the sewers. Her name is derived from the same root as Cloaca. She is the divine embodiment of this entire subterranean world. Cloaca is one of Rome's most ancient and peculiar deities. Her origins are murky, lost in the city's earliest, myth-shrouded history. The mainstream official story is that she was originally an Etruscan water goddess, whose shrine happened to stand over the spot where the Great Drain was first constructed. As the city grew and the drain was covered over, she was absorbed into the Roman pantheon, her portfolio shifting from a goddess of a clean, running stream to the patron deity of the sewer that replaced it. It's a classic Roman move: conquer, absorb, and repurpose. Her main shrine is in the Forum, a small, circular affair built directly over the main trunk of the Cloaca Maxima. It's a place senators and noble women might pass every day without a second thought. To them, she is a minor, archaic goddess, a relic of a primitive past. But down here, to the men who actually work in her domain, she is very real and very powerful. The academic world has long debated the exact nature of Cloaca's cult. Was she a goddess of purification, her waters washing away the city's physical and spiritual filth? Or was she something darker, a Thanoic deity of the underworld, a queen of decay and waste? The truth is, she was likely both, her meaning shifting depending on who was doing the praying. For the senator dropping a coin in her shrine up in the sunlight, it was a symbolic gesture for the city's health. For Decimus, leaving a hand-marked offering in the stinking darkness, it was a deeply personal plea for protection. She sees everything that the city discards, Decimus says, his voice low and reverent. Lost things, forgotten things, she knows our work. It is right to show respect. You look at the small stone in the niche, the simple, wavy line. It's a humble offering, an act of faith in a place that feels utterly godless. It's not the grand sacrifice of a bull in a marble temple. It's a quiet, desperate conversation with a deity only you and your brothers truly understand. You work in a place where death is a constant, casual threat, from flood, from gas, from sickness, from collapse. It makes sense that you would seek protection from a power that understands the specific, filthy corner of the universe. You think about the ring you found, the one Lucius made you throw back. Perhaps that was an offering, too. A gift to the goddess, a tribute paid to ensure safe passage through her dark, watery kingdom. You realize that this place, which seems like the absolute negation of the sacred, has its own unique and powerful spirituality, born from a mixture of profound respect and primal fear. The successful bypass of the Vila broom collapse earns the crew a grudging nod of approval from the overseer, but little else. Life, and the flow of filth, returns to normal. But the incident has planted a seed of an idea in the minds of some of the men. You begin to hear whispers, quiet conversations held in the darkest corners of the tunnels when the overseers are not around. The talk is of forming a collegium. A collegium is, in essence, a Roman guild or fraternity. There were collegiae for seemingly every profession imaginable: silversmiths, bakers, ferrymen, even musicians. These were part social club, part trade union, and part burial society. They hosted shared meals, honored patron deities, and, most importantly, guaranteed a proper funeral for their members. For a Roman, dying without the means for a proper burial, with the right rituals, a tomb, and a memorial, was a terrifying prospect, believed to condemn your spirit to wander the earth as a restless ghost. To the poor, a collegium was often the only way to ensure this final dignity. The idea is being pushed by Gaius, the man with the persistent cough. Despite his physical frailty, his eyes burn with a fiery intelligence. During a break, huddled around a single lamp in a relatively dry side-minus chamber, he makes his case. "Look at us," he says, his voice a passionate, wheezing whisper. "We do the work no one else will. We keep this city from poisoning itself. The bakers have their guild. The weavers have their guild. Why not us? Why shouldn't we have the same rights? The same dignity?" He speaks of negotiating for better pay, of demanding a daily ration of higher-minus quality oil for the lamps, not the cheap, smoky stuff that coats your lungs, but a fund, collected from members' dues, to support the family of a man who is killed or injured on the job, or to help a man like you when he is struck down by fever, and, most importantly, of a shared burial plot, a place where a Cloaca can be laid to rest with honor, his name carved on a stone for all to see. The idea is both thrilling and dangerous. For men who are treated as less than human by the society they serve, the thought of formal recognition, of a collective identity, is intoxicating. It's a claim to humanity, a declaration that your lives and your deaths have meaning. But it is also a challenge to the established order. Lucius, ever the pragmatist, is skeptical. A guild of grime, he scoffs, though without his usual bite. The magistrates will never approve it. They see us as property, tools to be used and discarded. To them, a guild of sewer workers is like a guild of hammers. It's a joke. This is the core of the historical debate surrounding these professional associations. How much real power did they have? Were they truly early forms of labor unions, capable of collective bargaining and even strikes? Or were they mostly social and religious organizations, tolerated by the state as long as they didn't cause trouble? The evidence is ambiguous. Some inscriptions suggest that Colleague IA could be influential, while edicts from several emperors show a deep suspicion towards them, viewing them as potential hotbeds of political dissent. An unauthorized collegium could be seen as a conspiracy against the state, a crime with severe penalties. We don't need their approval to look after our own, Gaius counters, his argument aimed directly at the crew's powerful sense of internal loyalty. "We already do it, when you work out," he says, pointing a thin, grimy finger at your scarred leg. "We didn't wait for an overseer's permission to carry you out. We acted as brothers. A collegium would just make it official. It would give us a name, a voice." Marcus, the silent giant, grunts in agreement, a rare and powerful endorsement. Decimus, the old man, nods slowly. "A proper burial," he murmurs, his eyes looking into the darkness, perhaps seeing the end of his own long, difficult road. "It would be a good thing." The conversation is cut short by the sound of approaching footsteps, an overseer on his rounds. The men fall silent, the illicit idea of unity dissolving back into the shadows. But the seed has been planted. You are left to ponder the immense risk versus the profound reward. To organize would be to challenge the very structure of a society that has placed you at its absolute bottom. It would be an act of radical hope, a demand to be seen, to be counted, but in a world that depends on you being invisible, being seen can be the most dangerous thing of all. The whispers of forming a collegium continue to circulate in the dark, a quiet undercurrent of defiance in your daily toil. But any plans for organization are abruptly put on hold by an event that consumes the entire city. The emperor is celebrating a triumph. A triumph is the greatest spectacle Rome has to offer. It is a massive, city-wide parade to honor a victorious general, in this case, the emperor himself, for a decisive military victory on the northern frontier, for the citizens of Rome. It is a day of feasting, holidays, and patriotic fervor. The streets are decorated with laurels. Wine flows from public fountains. And the city gives itself over to a collective frenzy of celebration. For you, a triumph means something very different. The first sign comes as a change in the flow. The water in the main channels, usually a murky brown minus grey, takes on a deep reddish minus purple hue. The air, already thick, becomes heavy with the unmistakable, cloying scent of cheap wine. The city's fountains, many of which are connected to the sewer for overflow, are spouting wine instead of water, and the excess is pouring directly into your domain. You are wading through a river of diluted wine and waste. Then comes the food. The emperor, in a show of magnificent generosity, has ordered a massive public feast. Thousands of temporary cook fires are set up in the forums in public squares. Hundreds of cattle and pigs are slaughtered, roasted on spits, and distributed to the cheering crowds. The people eat and drink themselves into a stupor, a celebration of imperial power and abundance. And you get the leftovers. The sheer volume of waste that descends into the sewers is staggering. It's a tidal wave of refuse, a culinary avalanche. Huge, greasy slicks of rendered animal fat float on the surface of the water, clinging to your skin and clothes. The channels are choked with a bizarre and overwhelming collection of debris. Thousands of gnawed minus on cattle bones, entire pig heads, mountains of discarded bread crusts, fruit pits, oyster shells, and exotic delicacies you can't even identify. You find the spiky outer shell of a sea urchin, the feathered wing of a peacock, and the unmistakable, crescent minus shaped stones of imported dates. Your job, for the next 2 days, is not routine maintenance. It is a frantic, desperate battle to keep the system from completely choking on the city's celebration. The blockages are constant and enormous. You and your crew work without a break, your hooks pulling and tearing at the mountains of celebratory garbage. It is the hardest, most disgusting work you have ever done. There is a profound and bitter irony to your situation. Above you, the citizens of Rome are celebrating the glory of the empire. They are consuming its wealth, reveling in its power. You, meanwhile, are drowning in the physical evidence of that consumption, a direct and filthy consequence of their joy. The triumph's success is your misery. This is a historical detail that no triumphal arch or victory column would ever record. The grand narratives of Roman history celebrate the feast, but they are silent on the clean minus up. Working near a grate that opens onto the forum, you are tantalizingly close to the parade itself. You can hear the roar of the crowd, a sound like the sea. You can hear the blare of trumpets and the rhythmic marching of legions. Through the iron bars, you can catch fleeting glimpses of the spectacle. The flash of a legionary standard, the gilded horn of a sacrificial ox, the purple minus-robed senators. It's a world of color, sound, and glory, seen through a tiny, filth minus-stained window. At one point, Lucius, leaning on his hook to catch his breath, looks up towards the sound of the cheering. Every scrap of that, he says, his voice a low, bitter growl, was paid for with taxes, with the plunder of some poor tribe on the edge of the world. They bring it all here, to the center. They eat it, they drink it, and then they flush it all down to us. He spits into the water. We're at the bottom of it all, the very end of the line. His words hang in the foul air. The abstract concepts of empire, conquest, and glory are made brutally concrete down here. You are literally wading in the digested profits of military victory. The triumph isn't a distant political event. It's a physical reality that threatens to drown you in a river of wine minus, soaked garbage and animal carcasses. You are not a citizen celebrating a victory. You are part of the city's digestive tract, a lowly but essential organ in the imperial metabolism. And as you sink your hook into yet another grease minus congealed mass of bone and bread, you have never felt your position at the bottom of the world so keenly. The aftermath of the triumph lingers for days. A greasy, foul minus smelling hangover in the city's bowels. You and the crew work grueling shifts to clear the last of the celebratory blockages. The physical exhaustion is immense, but another, more subtle fatigue is setting in. It's a weariness of the mind. You are spending 10 to 12 hours a day in near minus total darkness. Your only light is the small, flickering flame of your lamp, which casts a tiny, mobile bubble of reality in an infinite ocean of black. Outside this circle of light, the world ceases to exist. This sensory deprivation starts to have strange effects on your perception. Your eyes, straining for information in the gloom, begin to play tricks on you. In the corner of your vision, you see movement where there is none. The shifting shadows cast by your own lamp coalesce into menacing shapes. A crouching beast, a hunched figure, a monstrous face in the texture of the mossy wall. You know they aren't real, but the jolt of fear is genuine every time. You find yourself turning around quickly, your heart pounding, only to find nothing but the same empty, dripping darkness that was there a moment before. Your hearing, now your most important sense, becomes hypersensitive. You can distinguish the footsteps of each member of your crew, the scuttling of a rat from 50 paces away, the specific gurgle of a dozen different junctions. But your brain, starved for stimulus, starts to create sounds that aren't there. You hear faint whispers in the sound of the running water, a mournful cry in the echo of a drip from the ceiling. Sometimes, in the deepest, most isolated sections of the sewer, you are certain you can hear a woman weeping, a sound that is impossibly, terrifyingly clear. This is a side of your work that no one ever talks about. The psychological toll. The physical dangers are obvious and immediate. The mental dangers are slow, insidious, and corrosive. Historians and archaeologists can reconstruct the physical environment of the Cloaca, but they can never truly map its psychological landscape. There are no ancient texts on the cognitive effects of long minus-term sensory deprivation on Roman laborers. It's a completely lost aspect of your experience. The darkness also fuels a unique and potent strain of superstition. The official, state-sanctioned gods of the sunlit world, Jupiter, Mars, Apollo, seem distant and irrelevant down here. This is a realm of older, darker things. The crew has a whole pantheon of unofficial spirits and monsters they speak of in hushed tones. Decimus tells stories of the Navi Lemures, the malevolent spirits of the unburied dead, who are said to be drawn to the filth and decay, their shadowy forms flitting just at the edge of the lamplight. Gaius swears he once saw a basilisk, a creature born from a cockerel's egg and hatched by a toad, whose gaze could kill a man instantly. He only survived, he claims, because he saw its reflection in a puddle first. Are these stories real? To you, in the oppressive, disorienting darkness, the line between reality and imagination becomes blurry. Is the weeping sound you hear just the wind in a ventilation shaft? Or is it the ghost of a murdered slave, her body dumped into the sewer centuries ago? Is the strange shape you see in the shadows just a pile of debris? Or is it something ancient and hungry that has made this place its home? Your rational mind, a product of the bright, orderly world above, battles with a more primal, suggestible part of you that is awakening in the dark. The greatest fear is the fear of being alone. Your lamp is your only companion, and the thought of it extinguishing is a constant, low-grade terror. One day, working a short distance from the others, you slip on a greasy stone. You don't fall, but you fumble your lamp. It drops to the floor, rolls, and goes out. The darkness is instantaneous, absolute. You are plunged into a void so complete, it feels like you've been struck blind and deaf. The familiar sounds of the sewer are suddenly alien and menacing. The gentle lapping of the water sounds like something breathing. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You have no idea which way is up, which way is down, which way is back to the crew. Planet, cold and suffocating, washes over you. You call out, but your voice is swallowed by the oppressive blackness. For a few terrifying seconds, you are utterly, completely lost. You are a tiny, insignificant speck in a vast, subterranean maze. A single forgotten thought in the city's dark subconscious. It's a feeling of cosmic loneliness. A primal horror that strips away your identity and leaves you as nothing more than a terrified, sightless animal. Then, you see it. A faint, distant, bobbing point of orange light. It's Lucius, coming to find you. The relief is so profound it makes your knees weak. As he approaches, his lamp pushes back the terrifying void, restoring the world, restoring your sanity. He helps you relight your wick, his hand steady on yours. He doesn't say a word, but his eyes, reflecting the small flame, are filled with a deep, knowing understanding. They too has been there. They all have. It's the ultimate initiation into this dark world. Years pass. The relentless rhythm of the sewer grinds on, and you grind on with it. The seasons blur into a continuous cycle of damp chill and suffocating heat. Emperors rise and fall in the world above. Their triumphs and assassinations just distant rumbles. Faint tremors felt through the soles of your worn minus-out sandals. Your world is the stone, the water, and the dark. You are no longer the novice. You are a veteran, a survivor. Your body is a testament to the life you've lived. Your hands are a mass of calluses and scars, the knuckles thick and permanently stained. Your back is bent into a perpetual stoop, a result of years spent crouching in low tunnels. The sewer's kiss, your rattling cough, is now a permanent part of your breathing. You move with the slow, deliberate economy of a man who knows that every wasted motion is a tax on a dwindling reserve of strength. Your face, which you only ever see as a vague, shadowy reflection in a still pool of water, has been reshaped by the darkness. The muscles around your eyes are permanently squinted, accustomed to straining in the gloom. Deep lines are etched from your nose to the corners of your mouth. You look older than your years. You are older than your years. But with this physical decay has come an unparalleled expertise. Your mental map of the Cloaca is no longer just a collection of roots. It is a complex, three-dimensional masterpiece. You know the system better than the engineers who designed the new sections. You can navigate long stretches in total darkness, guided by the feel of the current against your legs, the texture of the slime on the walls, and the subtle changes in the echo of your own footsteps. You are a living archive of the city's hidden geography. This deep, experiential knowledge is a form of wealth that cannot be spent in the world above. But down here, it is priceless. The younger men, the new recruits who arrive with the same desperate look you once had, look to you for guidance. They learn to watch you, to listen to you. You've become the new Decimus, the old man who knows the secrets of the tunnels. Don't go down that passage. You'll tell a new man. Your voice a low rasp. The draft is blowing the wrong way today, dear. You know this not from any scientific instrument, but from the way the flame of your lamp bent almost imperceptibly as you passed the entrance an hour ago. There's a loose keystone in the altar 100 paces ahead. You'll warn another. Walk on the left side. You remember the slight shift of the stone under your hand from a patrol 3 months prior. You are the institutional memory of the crew. This brings a new kind of burden, a weight of responsibility. The lives of these younger men, their survival, now depends in part on your knowledge, on your ability to remember every weak wall, every gassy pocket, every treacherous patch of silt. This relationship between veteran and novice workers is a critical part of social history that often gets overlooked. Complex skills and vital safety information in manual trades were not passed down through written manuals, but through this kind of direct, personal apprenticeship. It's a fragile chain of knowledge. If an entire experienced crew were to be lost in a single catastrophe, a major tunnel collapse, for instance, decades of accumulated wisdom could be wiped out in an instant, leaving the next generation of workers to relearn the deadly lessons all over again. The exact methods and lore of many ancient trades are lost to us precisely because this oral tradition was broken. One day, you are working near Lucius. He is older now, too. His movements even slower than yours. his face a mask of weary resignation. He stops and leans heavily against the wall, a fit of coughing shaking his entire body. When it subsides, he remains there for a long moment, his head bowed, his breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. You watch him, and in his exhausted, stooped frame, you see your own future. You see the inevitable end of this path. There is no retirement for a Cloaca. There is no pension. You work until your body breaks, until you are too sick or too weak to make the descent, and then you are cast aside, left to beg in the streets you once kept clean from below, until the sickness or the starvation finally claims you. The thought is not terrifying, not anymore. It is just as simple, unadorned fact, as solid and as cold as the stone walls around you. You have traded your health, your youth, and your place in the sunlit world for survival, one day at a time. The weight of all those years, of all those miles walked in the dark, of all that filth, has settled deep into your bones. It is a part of you now, an inseparable component of your being. The city above continues to grow, to transform. Like a great, insatiable beast, Rome is always consuming land, resources, and people, and its internal organs must expand to keep pace. One day, the overseer brings new orders. A massive new public building, a grand market or perhaps another bath complex, has been completed on the Kellyan Hill. A new main sewer line has been constructed to serve it, and your crew is tasked with the final, crucial step, breaking through the wall of the old trunk line to connect the new tributary. You are lead to a section of the main channel you've patrolled 100 times, but now there is something different. A section of the ancient, mossy brickwork has been marked with chalk. This is the spot. Behind this wall, which has stood for centuries, lies the dark, empty mouth of the new tunnel, waiting to be joined to the living system. The work is difficult and requires a strange mixture of brute force and precision. Under the direction of a military engineer, a stern man who seems deeply uncomfortable being in the sewer, Marcus begins to swing the sledgehammer. He is not trying to demolish the wall, but to carefully weaken it along the chalk lines, chipping away at the hard Roman mortar. The sound of the hammer is a rhythmic, percussive beat, a countdown to a significant moment in the sewer's history. Each blow sends shockwaves through the water, vibrating up your legs. You are not just performing a repair, you are actively participating in the evolution of the Cloaca. You are a midwife at the birth of a new artery for the city. This process of constant expansion and retrofitting is a key feature of Roman infrastructure. Unlike a modern city that might build a whole new system, the Romans tended to add on to what they already had. The Cloaca was not a single, master-plan creation, but a chaotic, multi-generational project, an agglomeration of different building styles, materials, and engineering philosophies, all layered on top of one another. Historians studying the sewers can identify sections built in the Republic, under Augustus, after the Great Fire of Nero, and into the later Empire, simply by the type of brickwork and mortar used. You are standing in a living, flowing museum of Roman construction techniques. Finally, after hours of hammering, the engineer gives a signal. The central part of the wall is weakened. Now comes the dangerous part. With a few, final, precise strikes, Marcus breaks through. A small hole appears, then another. With a great groan of tearing mortar, a large section of the wall gives way and collapses inward, splashing into the murky water. You are the first to see it. A perfect, dark, circular tunnel, its new bricks clean and untouched. It's a void, a silent, waiting emptiness. And from it comes a strange and unfamiliar smell. The clean, dry scent of dust, new mortar, and earth. It is the smell of a place that has never known the touch of the city's filth. The water from your channel, the old, dark river of waste, is the first to enter. It hesitates for a moment, as if uncertain, and then it spills into the new tunnel, a tongue of murky brown licking at the clean floor. It flows in, a tide of filth christening the new construction, claiming it for the underworld. In moments, the new tunnel is no longer a pristine piece of engineering. It is now part of the Cloaca, initiated into the endless cycle of flow and refuse. Your job is to go in, to inspect the new connection and clear away the rubble from the demolition. You are the first human to wade into this new passage. As you step from the old world into the new, you feel the difference under your feet. The floor of the old tunnel is worn and slick with centuries of slime. The floor of the new one is rough. The bricks still sharp minus edge, gritty with construction dust. You hold your lamp high. The new tunnel is a marvel of modern engineering, a perfect arch. The brickwork flawless. It represents the pinnacle of Roman power and confidence. But as you stand there, the filthy water from the old empire swirling around your ankles, you feel a strange sense of melancholy. You are witnessing the system's growth, its robust health, but you are also an agent of its contamination. Your very presence, and the water that flows with you, brings the inevitable decay. Everything, no matter how new and grand, is eventually consumed by the filth. It is the one constant, the one unavoidable truth of the city, and of your life. The years have thinned the ranks of your original crew. Gaius, the passionate advocate for a collegium, was finally consumed by his cough one winter, his body quietly removed from the tenement he called home. Marcus, the gentle giant, was killed in a tavern brawl, a stupid, pointless death in the sunlit world that felt like a betrayal of all the dangers he had survived in the dark. Decimus, the old man, simply stopped showing up one day, having finally surrendered to the accumulated weight of his years. Lucius is still here, but he is now a supervisor. His knees too short to handle the wading anymore. He stands at the entry shafts, his face a grim mask, counting the men in on doubt. And you are now the old man. You are the veteran, the survivor, the repository of all the forgotten knowledge. The new recruits, their faces young and etched with the same desperate fear you once felt, are now brought to you. One nodding, Lucius appears at the archway with a new man in tow. He's barely a man, nor of a boy, perhaps 17 or 18 years old. He's skinny and pale, with the wide, terrified eyes of a cornered rabbit. He is trying very hard to look tough, but the slight tremor in his hands and the way he flinches at the sewer smell gives him away. This is Quintus. Lucius says to you, his voice flat, he's your charge. Teach him how not to die on his first day. And just like that, you have come full circle. You are now the guide, the one who must translate the deadly language of this place for a new student. You look at Quintus, at his clean tunic and his unscratched hands, and you see a ghost. You see yourself, all those years ago, standing in this very spot, your stomach empty and your future terrifying. Stinking boy. You grunt a greeting and lead him to the ladder. You watch as he takes his first hesitant steps down into the darkness. He sits on a slimy rung and almost falls, catching himself with a panicked gasp. You don't offer a hand. Sympathy is a luxury that has no currency down here. He needs to learn to rely on himself. And quickly, his first steps into the sewers flow a replay of your own. He recoils at the touch of the foul, lukewarm water, a look of pure disgust on his face. He gags at the smell. You hand him his tools, a lamp, a bucket, a hook, and you see the same look of bewildered inadequacy in his eyes as he holds them. Rule 1. You hear yourself say, the words coming automatically, a script you didn't even know you had memorized. Your voice sounds strange to your own ears. A low rasp that sounds uncannily like Lucius's did all those years ago. Stay in the middle. The sides are treacherous. You lead him on a short patrol, pointing out the things he needs to know. You show him how to use the hook, not with brute force, but with leverage. You make him stop, douse his lamp, and just listen, forcing him to pick out the different sounds from the darkness. He is a terrible student. He is clumsy, scared, and asks too many questions. What was that noise? He'll whisper, jumping at the sound of a distant rockfall. The city settling. You reply without turning around. Are the rats dangerous? Only if you look like a piece of cheese. Your answers are short, clipped, and devoid of comfort. It is the only way. You are not trying to be his friend. You are trying to keep him alive. You are forging him in the same cold, unforgiving fire that forged you. This master-apprentice relationship is the invisible engine of the Roman economy. The skills that built the empire, from laying a road to forging a sword to cleaning a sewer, were passed down this way from one generation to the next, through observation, imitation, and harsh, practical instruction. Historians debate the formal structures of this training. Was there a set curriculum, a specific length of apprenticeship? For a job like yours, it's highly unlikely. The training was brutally simple. Learn the rules, do the work, and if you survive the first week, you might just survive the second. At one point, Quintus lets his attention wander. He is staring up at a street grate, mesmerized by the slivers of sunlight breaking through, a moth drawn to a flame he cannot reach. He doesn't notice the subtle shift in the current, the slight pooling of the water that indicates a new, minor blockage ahead. He stumbles, his foot caught on a submerged piece of debris. He cries out as he falls, disappearing completely beneath the foul water. For a heartbeat, you watch, a cold detachment washing over you. The sewer is a harsh teacher. They weed out the weak, the careless. But then, you see yourself in him. You see your own fear, your own desperation. With a groan of weary resignation, you reach out with your hook, snag the back of his tunic, and hold him, sputtering and choking, back to his feet. He stands there, shivering, covered in a dripping coat of indescribable filth, a look of utter humiliation and terror on his face. "Dunsa," you say, your voice cold and hard, betraying none of the pity you feel. Watch the water, not the sky. He just nods, his eyes wide, the lesson learned in the most brutal way possible. You turn and continue the patrol, leaving him to follow in your wake. He is still clumsy, still scared, but he is alive, and for now, that is enough. You have passed on the first, and most important, lesson of your trade. The years continue their slow, grinding passage. Quintus, against all odds, survives. He learns. He stops asking questions and starts anticipating the work. He develops the sewer-dweller's sixth sense, that instinct for the subtle shifts in flow and air. He becomes a reliable member of the crew, his youthful strength a welcome addition. You watch his progress with a sense of detached, paternal pride, though you never say a word of it to him. Meanwhile, the world above is changing in ways that are, at first, imperceptible. The city feels heavier, more tired. The grand triumphs are fewer and farther between. The new building projects are less ambitious. The air of supreme, unshakable confidence that once defined Rome is beginning to curdle into something else. Anxiety, uncertainty. These subtle shifts in the imperial mood have a direct, physical impact on your world. The sewer, the city's faithful, uncomplaining servant, is beginning to show signs of neglect. It starts with the repairs. When a section of wall would collapse in the old days, a team of engineers and masons would be dispatched immediately. The repair work swift and solid. Now, the response is slower. A collapse might be left for weeks, forcing your crew to create dangerous, unofficial bypasses. When the masons finally do arrive, their work is shot dear. The mortar is of a poorer quality, the brickwork less precise. Patches are applied where a full reconstruction is needed. The system is being held together with cheap fixes and crossed fingers. The blockages also become more frequent and more stubborn. This is a direct reflection of the city's changing economy. In the Empire's golden age, goods were plentiful and often disposable. A broken pot was simply thrown away. But now, with trade routes becoming less secure and the economy faltering, people are holding on to things longer. When something finally does break, it is more likely to be dumped wholesale into the drains, rather than salvaged. You start finding larger, more awkward objects in the tunnels. A broken hand minus mill, the frame of a wooden chair, a whole discarded goat hide from a tanner who couldn't afford to process it properly. This makes your work harder and more dangerous. This period, often referred to by historians as the crisis of the 3rd century, was a time of immense turmoil for the Roman Empire, marked by civil war, plague, and economic collapse. While historians focus on the chaotic succession of emperors and the barbarian invasions on the frontiers, the real, tangible effects of the crisis were felt in the mundane details of urban life. For you, the crisis is not a headline. It's a cracked wall, a cheap batch of mortar, and a broken piece of furniture blocking a drain. The failing health of the empire is reflected in the declining health of its own bowels. One day, you are working in a section near the Forum Bower Room, the old cattle market. It's an ancient part of the system, with a low, vaulted ceiling of massive, moss-minus covered tufa blocks. For weeks, you've noticed the water level here has been consistently higher than it should be. The flow is sluggish, the water almost stagnant. You and your crew have cleared every tributary feeding into it. But the problem persists. The blockage is somewhere in the main trunk itself, deep in a section that is almost impossible to reach. The overseers, who once would have spared no expense to fix such a problem in a critical area, now just shrug. There is no budget for a major excavation. There are no engineers available. Just keep the side channels clear is the only order you are given. So the great drain, the mighty Cloaca Maxima, is left to fester. The stagnant water begins to seep into the foundations of the buildings above. The ground in the market becomes marshy and unstable. Basal, swampy smell begins to rise from the drains, a stench that even the hardened Roman noses of the merchants can no longer ignore. You stand at the edge of the stagnant section, the dark, still water reflecting your lamp's flame. You, who know the sewer's language better than any man alive, can feel what is happening. The system is getting old. It is getting sick. The powerful, life-minus giving pulse that has flowed through these tunnels for 1,000 years is weakening. The arteries are hardening. The great beast beneath the city is slowly, almost imperceptibly, beginning to die. And you are a helpless witness to its decline, a lonely doctor making his rounds on a patient for whom there is no cure. You are an old man now, truly old. Your hair, what's left of it, is the color of ash. Your hands are gnawed into claws by arthritis, your hook feeling heavier with each passing year. Most of the men you started with are long gone, their names fading echoes in the tunnels. Lucius, your first guide, died in his bed. A quiet, unremarkable end for a man who had survived so much. Quintus, your apprentice, is now the crew leader, a grim, capable veteran in his own right, his face carved with the same lines of weariness that mark your own. He treats you with a gruff, quiet respect, often assigning you to the easier, less demanding patrols, a silent acknowledgement of your service and your frailty. Your life has achieved a strange kind of peace. The ambitions and fears of your youth have been worn away by the slow, constant friction of the water. You no longer dream of the world above. You no longer covet its treasures or its sunlight. This dark, wet, stinking world has become your home, its familiar gloom a comfort, its monotonous rhythm the only lullaby you know. One day, you are walking a familiar line, a quiet residential section beneath the Aventon Hill. It's a patrol you've done 1,000 times. The flow is steady, the tunnel is stable. It is a good day. You stop for a moment to rest, leaning your stripped back against the cool, damp brickwork. You hold up your lamp, its flame small and steady, and you look at the wall. You see the layers of history etched into the stone. You see the original, rough-hewn blocks laid by Etruscan kings, a testament to the city's mythical origins. You see the clean, precise brickwork of Agrippa's great renovation, a symbol of the Republic's end and the Empire's glorious beginning. You see the clumsy patch-minus job from the crisis years, a scar marking the time the Empire almost tore itself apart. And you see the fine layer of grime and filth that covers it all, a dark varnish applied daily by the relentless flow of life and time. You realize, in a moment of quiet, profound clarity, what your life has been. You did not build temples. You did not write laws. You did not conquer foreign lands. But your work, your filthy, forgotten, invisible labor, was the foundation for it all. Without you, and the generations of men like you, there could be no marble forums, no magnificent bathhouses, no triumphant parades. The glorious superstructure of Roman civilization, the thing that would be admired and studied for thousands of years, was built on a foundation of managed filth. The senators who debated philosophy and poetry could do so only because you kept their waste from flooding their villas. The legions who marched forth to conquer the world could march through clean streets because you toiled in the muck beneath them. This is a truth that history, with its focus on great men and great events, almost always misses. It misses the silent, essential labor that makes civilization possible. It is a point that some modern historians, focusing on infrastructure and daily life, are only now beginning to fully appreciate. They argue that the true genius of Rome was not in its legions, but in its aqueducts and its sewers, in its ability to manage the mundane, biological realities of 1 million people living together in one place. You are the living embodiment of that genius. You are a curator, a guardian, a priest of a dark, wet, and essential temple. Your life has not been one of glory, but it has been one of profound, hidden importance. You have been a silent partner to emperors, a hidden collaborator with architects, an unseen shield against the diseases that would have otherwise consumed the city. You look down at the slow-minded moving water, at the endless river of refuse flowing past your feet. It no longer disgusts you. It is simply the pulse of the city, the evidence of its life, its triumphs, its excesses, its sorrows, and you have been its faithful keeper. You take a slow breath of the heavy, familiar air. Your work is almost done. The darkness is waiting, but you feel a sense of completion, a quiet satisfaction that settles into your old bones. You did not just survive this place. You belong to it, and it, in its own strange, dark way, belonged to you. You were a sewer cleaner of Rome, and that was enough. And so, the current of our story begins to slow, its ripples softening as they reach a quiet shore. The echoes in the stone tunnels fade, leaving behind a deep and profound silence. You can feel the weight of those ancient stones, the press of centuries, but it is not a heavy weight. It is the comforting weight of a thick blanket, a feeling of being grounded, of being held by the deep, deep earth, the flickering lamplight, that small, brave flame that held back the infinite darkness, now begins to dim, its orange glow softening to a warm and gentle ember. You are no longer in the tunnels. You are somewhere else now, a place between the story and the dream. You can feel your own breath, a slow and easy tide, rising and falling in the quiet of your room. The journey is over. The work is done. There is nothing left to do now but rest, to let the last vestiges of the tale dissolve like mist, leaving only a sense of peace, a feeling of a long day's work finally, gently, coming to its end. The darkness of the sewer gives way to a much softer, more welcome darkness, the darkness of deepened restorative sleep. The final word has been whispered. If your mind is still gently stirring, you're welcome to drift into another of my stories. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.